I spent a lot of time talking about how to identify whether or not a conspiracy theory is true or whether or not it's false. I've even talked a lot about how to dismantle a conspiracy theory to show that it's false and to help other people to see that light. But I think one of the overarching problems with conspiracy theories is how they begin. And I don't see a lot of information about what's actually causing conspiracy theories to take place in the first place. So let's just talk about that for a second, because I think that there's a certain aspect of conspiracy thinking that we just all need to acknowledge from time to time, that we all engage in. It's how conspiracy theories get started. Every conspiracy theory begins with somebody who's just making stuff up. Let's just recognize it. It's coming from our imaginations. And the reason why we're imagining these things is because there's some phenomenon that's happening that we can't explain, and we're looking for an explanation to fill in that space, to satisfy us, to make us feel better. And we come up with these theories, these explanations in our heads. That's how rumors start. That's how gossip begins. If you see someone acting strangely, you start to anticipate what the reasons are, why they're doing it. If you don't like that person, you're probably going to assign them nefarious intentions or motives. If you want to get back at that person, you're going to try to think of things that could cause them harm. And so therefore, conspiracy theories, which are oftentimes things done to cause harm to others, unbeknownst to them, in secret or in private, are all kind of conjured up in our heads. And if you realize how often we do that, you'd realize that conspiracy theories just begins with someone who comes up with one of these theories and then runs with it as if it's true. The longer they run with it, the more it becomes part of their worldview, and then they can't separate themselves from it. I mean, it's almost impossible to unwind a person's worldview. You've got to dismantle the whole thing when they're so steeped in the conspiracy theory that they've constructed this whole world of reality that's all imaginary. You can't unwind that. So I think the key part of preventing conspiracy theories from spreading is just to recognize how they begin. They start with our imagination. And if you recognize that, I think that's what gives people pause enough to say, wait a minute, is there any evidence for this? And I understand that a lot of people think that there's evidence for their conspiracy theories. They've seen something on Facebook, or maybe they even heard something on the news and they run with that. But maybe they took it out of context, or maybe it's based on false information to begin with. After all, there are people who oftentimes try to plant conspiracy theories in order to disrupt the mainstream media, or to disrupt things in culture. So we have to be very careful that we don't just believe whenever somebody presents us with something, really to investigate that. That's where the other videos will come in handy, so that you can start to see how to identify whether or not the conspiracy theory is true or false, or how to dismantle it once it's been created. But the key thing is just to note, when you hear stuff about vaccines, right? Somebody imagined that may cause autism, or you hear something about the government, you say, well, maybe the government is behind this, or you see a natural disaster and you think that can't be natural, it's got to be human caused. Or if somebody dies in a car wreck, that wasn't just an accident, there had to be deliberate, especially if they were famous or somebody who you like. And so we oftentimes just sort of imagine these things, and because it resonates with us, because it either appeals to things we already believe, or makes us feel good to think that that's true, or it helps us to kind of satisfy that revenge. Like I said, when you start a rumor or you start gossip about someone, it's because you're trying to get back at that person. Even just evaluating those things in yourself, checking your biases, checking your motives, you start to see that we make things up a lot. And I hear that all the time when, I'm talking to my wife about the weather or something. We're trying to explain why the weather's acting this way. We're trying to explain, what might have caused this, thing to happen on the news, or why the political sphere is the way it is. We come up with explanations even though we don't have any evidence for it. We do it all the time, and if you can just simply recognize that, you're going to stop a lot of conspiratorial thinking right in its tracks. So let's just acknowledge that conspiracy theories are started with imagination. And when you hear them being spread, just note that they're being spread by appealing to people's imagination as well.